Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's installment of the OpenText Live webinar series. My name is Carrie Linscott, and I'll be moderating today's call. With me today is Martin Tietz, Product Marketing Manager, and Gary Betancourt, Software Development Manager. And they are here to present what is new in OpenText Boosted TD Mobile 2.3 and Team Developer 7.2. If you have a question for our presenters at any time during today's call, you can simply type it into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will address them after the presentation. If we are unable to get to your questions today, our presenter will follow up with you directly. Today's session is being recorded, and you'll be able to find the PowerPoint and recording later this afternoon on the OpenText Knowledge Center, and we'll also send you an email with these materials within the next couple of days. Before we begin, I'd like to make sure that everyone is aware of our OpenText Elite Customer and Partner Loyalty Program. The program recognizes customers and partners who participate in activities that help us tell the OpenText story. It's a great way for you to earn rewards while continuing to share your best practices and successes. This program gives back to our customers in the form of Elite Points, a token of appreciation for their continued support. These points can be redeemed towards things like professional and learning services, OpenText merchandise, and passes to Enterprise World, the OpenText User Conference. To learn more about this program, you can email elite@opentext.com. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Martin, and we can get started.
Thank you very much, Carrie, and welcome everybody. And today we've got two exciting new products to show you. I'm going to go through the features and benefits, and after each section, Gary will be doing a product presentation of TD Mobile and Team Developer. So here's the agenda. So there are three sections today. First, the features and benefits of TD Mobile 2.3, like programming enrichments, UX augmentations, web offline mode, update. Then we will be talking about features that are actually available in TD Mobile 2.3 and Team Developer 7.2, like many new APIs and reporting fortifications. After that part, Gary will do the TD Mobile presentation or the TD Mobile live demo. And then I'm going through the features and benefits of Team Developer 7.2. We'll see new programming experience, new APIs, UX enhancements, new in reporting, and then again a product live demo. So TD Mobile 2.3. First, the programming enrichments. In TD Mobile 2.3, which actually is available since June, so you can download that as a trial version today, and if you have the mobile maintenance, you can also get that version from OpenText My Support. So what's new in TD Mobile is global constants. Global constants allow you to define constants in a global section of the outline in client resources, and these global constants will be available everywhere in the application without the need for you to create duplicate constant definitions on every single page. That can easily get messy, and you also can mix up values, so that's not nice, and global constants is the right way to do that. Basically, the same thing as global binds. So you can define binds that are available globally for every page, and you can access the values of that bind on every page. And for both the global constants and the global binds, you can use the basic data types and user-defined variables, so you can create your own data classes that can be accessible from on every page on the client side. Then another nice application-wide thing are the application-wide events. So you can now execute code on the client side when the application starts or when the application stops. And you see that on the right side there in the application outline, you have an event section below client resources where you can call something, do something on exit, or do something on start. So all of these things make programming TD Mobile application much easier because you now have global access to things and have places for global application code. in TD Mobile, you have this low-code database connection method, and for that, there's now a new function in TD Mobile which is called Web Update Connection, which allows to modify the value of a connection string at runtime. That was heavily requested because right now these connection strings are static, and you want to create applications that connect maybe to a different database in testing than in production, or that connect to a different database at different customer sites, for example. So this is now enabling easy low code with flexible connection strings. Then we have done UX augmentations, and the most important thing there is the new date and time picker. So you see some screenshots on the right side there. So basically you get a date and time picker where you can choose the date, you can choose the time, you can do multiple selections. And I think that's really quite important for professional business applications, as when you're using TD Mobile in a web browser, every web browser has a different way of presenting a time picker, if at all, or they just have to enter some text. Smartphone date pickers are clunky to handle if you need to move around for long periods of time, for example. So this is a very nice enhancement to web and mobile applications. And as I said, date, time, and multiple selections, including an API that supports even more features via JavaScript. So the web offline mode, we need to update that one, or we have updated that. So the HTML5 definition is going away from the application cache that we have been using initially to a method that is called service workers. And in the current phase, Android is using service workers, so they are a bit ahead of iOS, which is using application cache. That means that in the build options of TD Mobile, you can choose what kind of offline cache you want to use for that deployment, application cache or service worker. And that is important just for web applications, because if you're creating native applications, then you're handling the offline mode yourself very differently. So the coming things are new both in TD Mobile 2.3 and in TD Developer 7.2. So there are shared new APIs and reporting features. There is a new string encryption API. You can encrypt and decrypt a string using a key, which is using an AES-256-bit encryption. And you can basically encrypt and decrypt a string with that modern encryption API. And this one has been requested by many customers, which is a pretty powerful string search and replace feature using regular expressions. Now, regular expressions can be used to replace things in string. You can analyze strings, for example, to find matches for credit card numbers and then redact these credit card numbers. For example, this is a screenshot of a sample on the right side where the regex is on the right \BA\W plus, which searches this string here, and we are searching for the term antique and replacing it with the word modern. So that's a very simple search and replace. Below is a validation for an email address. You see that regex expression there is a little bit more complex, which allows to test a string and tell if that actually is a valid email address format. So, and I'm sure developers have many more ideas that they can use and make use of regular expressions and string search. So to accomplish that, there are 4 new functions in the TD Mobile and in Team Developer 7.2. There's style regex match, style regex search, style regex replace, and replace all. So these can be used to analyze your strings with regular expressions. So REST calls frequently have complex authentication involved. For example, if you want to do REST calls to Twitter or to Facebook, then you need to be able to use the OAuth authentication method or mechanisms. And to do that, we have implemented two new functions, style JSON serialize UDVX and style JSON deserialize UDVX, which now take headers and URL parameters that can be passed into these calls, and such can easily enable complex authentication in your REST calls. Another new function in TD Mobile 2.3 and Team Developer 7.2 is style string compress X. So this is now available for string compression with the binary data type, which we didn't have before. And string conversion for style binary to string. And there is a new flag encoding binary, which does not do any code page conversion, so the data won't get touched. And a new one for encoding base 64. So this has been requested. I think that the first one, the encoding binary, is very important. So your screens, your string contents don't get touched by code page conversions. Okay, those have been the new APIs in Team Developer 7.2 and TD Mobile 2.3. Now let's look at the reporting fortifications. These reporting fortifications are part of the report designer, which is part of TD Mobile 2.3 and as well teamdeveloper.net 2.3. So we're not talking about report builder. This is the report designer product, which is in the .NET world only. You can now use watermarks for PDF reports. You can text and image watermarks. The content can be file-based or it can be coming through an input variable. And you can see there we have many formatting options. You can set an opacity, an orientation, a size. So many things that you can do with these watermarks, and design the watermarks just as you need them on your report pages. For Report Designer, we also now have conditional formatting for the line, field, text, and picture objects. So you can provide a formula in the properties dialog, on the formula then we decide whether a certain format is being applied or not. So for example, if you want to display negative numbers in red and positive numbers in green, things like that. We also now have image scaling. So you can scale an image, you can size to fit an image and size for best fit. So the image handling in reports is much better. And you have text line wrapping, which is nice for text that is longer than the length of one data field that can now move over in multiple lines of text. And before we go into the demo, the TD Mobile architecture again that I want to stress here, you have a single software development tool, and you can deploy that software to the web, and you have software users on the web. And this is even it's gotten even better with the new daytime control that we present in TD Mobile 2.3. And you can also deploy the applications as hybrid native applications via an app store on Android and iOS to software users that want to use native apps. We have those basically those two deployment models. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Gary for a live demo of TD Mobile 2.3.
Thank you, Martin. Let me share my screen. So first I will just show you some of the new TD Mobile 2.3 features we've added. I will be using a feature sample which is included with the samples installer that we ship with TD Mobile 2.3. So everything that you see here, you can play with yourself when you install TD Mobile 2.3. What I have here is the, if you select the application node, you will see this, the new events node that's on a child of the application and client resources, which allows you to handle application-wide exit and start events. So this is a nice feature that allows you to run your code when the application first loads in the browser, or to do something upon the user exiting the application. So if you wanted to, say, load information up on start, or maybe log or end a session, close some database resources on exit, then you can use these new global events to do that. We also have added on the left here, you'll see two new nodes for adding either client-side constants, so you can add constants which can be used throughout your application here, and they can be typed using the 4 primitive types supported in Team Developer. And you can also add global binds, and this is really useful if you want to share information between pages without having to pass them around as parameters or constantly reloading them from the server. So with this example here, we have a UDV which is being used as like a shopping cart, and I have a global bind here which is accumulating cart items, and this would be nice to be able to use in a global context and have it just shared between all the pages in the application. So I've defined it here as a global bind. And then you can use it just as a regular bind on your data fields in your event action code. You can access these binds just as you would a bind defined on individual pages. Another thing we have here is a page with the new date time picker. So in previous versions of Team Developer Mobile, you had to use the HTML5 input type. So you would have a data field that you would put on your form, and then you would use the date time input type, which would rely on the device's native UI to display a date input. And we've had many customers ask us to provide a JavaScript-based control to display a date picker. And this gives you more flexibility. You can do things like multiple date selection, things that the native UI doesn't necessarily support. So we've added this new date time picker here. That's the icon for it. It has several date time picker specific options, like the ability to toggle whether you want to show a date or a time picker. You can have a clear button that allows a user to clear out the field. We also support getting access to the underlying date picker control, because this is a third-party open source control that we're leveraging, and so you can always get access to the underlying control and set many different options that are supported, and we have the API documentation for that listed here. So if you wanted to set a custom option, like the ability to select multiple dates, it's really easy to do using our TD Mobile JavaScript API. As Martin mentioned, we've enhanced some of the SAL API functions include things like regular expressions, encryption, ability to update database connections. Some of this I will be showing in the team developer demos later, but these are the new server-side APIs you can make use of. And finally, we've enhanced the report designer with several customer requested features, such as the ability to scale images using different mechanisms like size to fit, size for best fit, and then custom scaling. We've added conditional formatting, so you can base the background color on lines and controls based off of formulas, similar to what you could do with Report Builder. We also have a new watermark property on the report, so you can generate watermarks based off of just static text, input items, a custom picture, and then we have various properties to control, like the font, the color, orientation, etc. So that's some of the reporting enhancements. So let me go ahead and run this example. So this is the new date time picker. It's a really nice looking date time picker. So this example is just showing you the date. You can also enable a date and time picker, so you get the date up here and then some sliders for selecting the time. This control supports, a mini option, so the UI is a little bit smaller. The ability to have a clear button here, and then this is the API example where I can set custom properties. So in this particular date time picker, you can select a range of dates. So if I wanted to say, reserve a hotel for a few nights, you can select a range of dates using the interface. So in this example, I'm just showing how to use a global bind to accumulate some items in a shopping cart. And so if I go to the next page, I'm reusing that same global bind to access the cart, and I don't have to do any of this by passing page parameters or go back to the server to load that information. It's just shared between pages, and I can pass that cart information to the report I just showed you to show off some of the new items, such as this watermark that's being rendered here. You can see the line wrapping enhancement that we've added here. So the cart description is being rendered over multiple lines. We have different scaling here of that image. And then also a formula which is highlighting this line in red. So that's showing off the conditional formatting we've added for TD Mobile 2.3. So with that, I will hand it back over to Martin to show the Team Developer 7.2 features.
Thank you, Gary. So we do the Q&A at the end. So what's new in Team Developer 7.2? You already saw the APIs that are shared between TD Mobile and Team Developer. So the programming experience. We have a very exciting new feature in Team Developer 7.2, which is code analytics, which helps you find execution bottlenecks in your code. It creates a .trc file that includes code execution time per code line in milliseconds. And we have a new profiling viewer that lets you analyze your code. There are two levels of profiling. Level one is for message blocks and internal functions, and level two adds these SAL functions and internal functions. So you can basically profile everything if you like, and you can define exactly what to profile. There are several options how you can turn on code profiling. You can do that either through environment variables. You can do it through command line parameters, and each of them allows you to provide the profiling level and the profiling file name. Or you can enable everything through new SAL profile functions. So SAL profile start, SAL profile suspend, and so on, allow you to create profiling of your application code. And this is a screenshot here on the right side. I think that image pretty much explains everything. You can color highlight code that executes in more than n milliseconds. So you can say everything that takes more than 100 milliseconds to execute should be displayed in red. So you can quickly find the code that takes longer than expected to execute, and then analyze why that might be the case, how you could avoid things like that, maybe introduce threads or other things to avoid users having to wait longer periods of time. Then we have REST simplifications. The new REST wizard basically is a REST import wizard where you can provide a REST URL or a JSON response string, and out of that JSON, out of that response of the REST service or out of the REST string, we will provide this class that we'd like to generate, and you can switch on off members of that class. So you can say which one should be a part of the generated class that you want to have in your source code. Previously, you had to do the generation of these variables on your own, which was quite complex because you had to get many names exactly right and also in the right order and right structuring. So this automates the REST usage very much. Basically, you generate that APL here, and then you just have one call to call the REST service, and you can be sure that this then works without any errors and without you typing anything, having anything mistyped or so. So let me go to the next slide. So the wizard can fetch JSON from a URL or a JSON string, as I mentioned. You can turn off or on single elements of the to generate class, and there will then be an API file that you can include into your application to call or to consume those REST services. And this is really, really very, very helpful, especially if you have complex returns, including arrays and UDVs and everything, then this has become really very easy now. So new APIs in Team Developer 7.2. We got to talk about Windows notifications. This is an API as well. This one is not available in TD Mobile. You can create Windows notifications. So this, what is the screenshot there on the right side you see is a Windows 10 notification. And you can also show notify icons in this toolbar icon area. So there's two options, SAL show notify icon and SAL show balloon notify. Actually, I think we changed the function names to be SAL notify show icon so that you have a more consistent one. So sorry about that here. But you can see what the concept is. And you can, there's a message that you can use, which is the event that is raised when a user clicks on the notification. So you can examine that and execute custom code when the user clicks on the notification. So you can let users know about things that have happened in the application context. For example, an order that has been processed by another department and now needs to be processed by a salesperson, whatever you like. Or you can notify people of a missed phone call, anything you like. to make database connections thread safe, we have introduced this SQL Connect X function. Before, SQL Connect would just use the SQL user, SQL password, and SQL database variables, and those could be modified anywhere. And for threads, that's not a good idea. So the new function SQL Connect X gets rid of these problems and creates a thread-safe database connection function for you. In the IDE, we now have UTF-8 file encoding optional, so some source code management systems work mostly on UTF-8 files, and if you have one of those, then you can switch your default file encoding to UTF-8 instead of the default UTF-16. A security feature is that the value of SQL password of that variable is encrypted in memory. So if you read the memory of an application at runtime, you won't be able to read any passwords. And we do have a Windows mini dump, which is a debug feature that can be used by OpenText support to find the root cause of an application crash, for example. For debugging, we do now have command line parameters. So in the application properties, you can set the command line parameters for an application, and that is as if you would launch that application, including those command line parameters, which is important for testing applications. So there are a number of UX enhancements in Team Developer 7.2 as well. We do have a new light gray Office 2016 theme. You can see it in that screenshot. This one looks a bit like the previous Office 2012 theme, the white theme, but offers more contrast. So users might find this one easier to read and work with than the plain white theme. We have several new grid APIs. We have start table set table flags for several new flags. Table flag virtual scroll, which is only valid against grid windows, which helps to improve performance for populating larger data sets. And you can, in the column chooser of the grid, you can have the sort order of the columns to be sorted by alphabetical instead of the column position. Then there's a new API to find out if a row is excluded by a filter that the user has set on the grid. You can find that out at runtime. And you can set the background color and foreground color, though the text color, for various grid states using grid back color set and get and grid text color set and get. There are two new tab APIs as well. You can find out if using Salt tab is window activated, and that one returns whether the child window on the specified tab page is already activated. And there's a new function, Salt tab attach window as child, assigns a child window created at runtime to the specified tab page, the child of the current tab container. So you see, we've added quite a number of new user interface functionalities that allow you to create more flexible applications and analyze better what is going on with your application and what settings the users have done with your objects. So the reporting fortifications in Team Developer 7.2. Report Builder, which is available as a standalone product as well, which is mostly being used by, or which is frequently being used by customers that want to modify reports that come with Team Developer applications. So basically, you as a software house sell a vertical application to a user, and this report and the reports you include, the end user wants to modify. They want to include maybe their company logo. They want to change fonts to apply to their corporate identity and things like that. And now we can do the same thing with the Report Designer product because now Report Builder also contains the Report Designer product. So if you have TD Mobile applications or teamdeveloper.net applications that use Report Designer, and you are selling those to customers and you want to have these customers modify these reports, then you can sell them Report Builder. So they will be able, with Report Builder, to not only modify Report Builder reports, but also Report Designer reports. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Gary again for the Team Developer 7.2 product demonstration.
All right, thank you, Martin. I'll share my screen again. First, I'd like to show the new code profiler we've added with 7.2. As Martin mentioned, you can now turn on several profiling options on a running application. You can either do this using a SAL API, or you can also do this using some command line arguments or environment variables. Here I'll show you how to pass command line arguments to not only specify the profiling file to log to, but also the profiling level to turn on. So there's several profile levels you can set. But when you turn this on, you can run your application and maybe help diagnose why something might be starting up slowly, look at the call tree to analyze, where an application might be quitting. And so this is a useful feature to help debug applications in production. So I'm just going to start one of our demo applications with these options on by running the script. And so in this example, we might try and profile why it's taking this application so long to start up, and look at what are the more expensive functions which are being called. So that generated this trace file here. I can double click on it to open up the new trace viewer. And it basically just gives you a call stack and timing on all the various functions that were called. So you could see how at first, SAM app startup is called, then the SAM create on the MDI window. We come down and create all the other windows here, and you can see which functions are taking longer. So the MDI main has a create complete. That's creating a child window. So you could see that's taking up some time here, as well as the SAM create on the main window, which I believe is doing some SQL calls to fetch grid data, and that would be taking up. So you can see quickly here what's taking the most time and help you optimize your application and find potentially hotspots where you're could improve your startup time or other functions in your application. So that's the new profile viewer. We also added several API functions to allow you to create Windows notifications. These are really easy to use to create notifications that either show here in the system tray, or also create what are called balloon notifications, which show up here in the Windows notification area. So if I run this sample, I can create a notify icon here, which shows up in the system tray. You can get a SAL event raised when the user clicks on that icon, or you can create what's called a balloon notification here, which will not only give the user a pop-up, but also show up in the notification tray here. And you can click on that and again get notified in Team Developer that the user interacted with that notification. And then we have functions to update an existing notification or delete that. And then you can display various built-in icons as well. So that's a nice feature that we added. We also added several regular expression API functions here. So you can do things like match a string against regular expression, you can search a string for regular expression, do replacements, and I'll go ahead and run this example. So you might want to do something like detecting a user's or social security numbers that are inside of a string and maybe perhaps redact that. So first of all, you could use search to find, so let me put in a regular expression to match against a social security number. So you can do a search. It'll give you the first index of the first social security number in the string. Of course, you can provide a start index so you can iterate through and search for the regular expression in a large string. And you can do things like replacement. So if you wanted to say redact the social security numbers in the string, you can just do replace all, and it'll replace those social security numbers in that string. So the new salregex functions we've added are very helpful. We've also, another thing I'd like to show is the new REST import wizard. So if you have a complex REST API, in previous versions of Team Developer, you would have to create by hand a UDV structure that matches this structure, and that can be, take quite a bit of time. You have to go through, make sure you get all the names of these fields correct, and create all the sub UDVs, which represent all this data. So this is an example of an API that's returning country information. And so if you wanted to use this API in 7.2, you can use the new import wizard, the REST import wizard. And I'll just copy that URL here. You can provide either an endpoint URL, or you can just copy and paste in a JSON string. In this example, I'll go ahead and just use this URL. And what it will do is give you a grid that will allow you to do, select which fields you want to go ahead and import. You can also, for the fields which are UDVs, you have the ability to customize the class name. We'll try and give it just a, come up with a decent initial class name, but sometimes, especially for that root object, we have no field name. So I might just edit this and say class country data, and then I can provide a output, and it goes ahead and adds that library in here, so you can see the UDV structure it created. So this is the root object, which has instance variables for all of these fields, and you can see it handles child UDVs here as well. So it creates a currency class, which has its own fields, languages, etc. And then to use this UDV structure, it's really easy. You just call sal JSON deserialize UDV. You pass in that URL and a reference to your root class here. So I have an array here of country data, which will be populated from that REST call. I'm going to run that. And I'm just loading that UDV into a table window for display. So that's just a demonstration of how you can consume a REST API in mere minutes using the new REST import wizard. With that, I believe I will hand it back over to Martin for our Q&A.
Thank you, Gary. And let's move to the next slide here. Yeah, and with that, let's open the
Thanks, everyone. Yep. We can move on to our question and answer section of our presenters have a chance to answer your questions. So just as a reminder, if you want to put them at the bottom box there, we have a couple coming in. So one question is, this profiling feature also works to web services? Question. The profiling feature also works to web services.
The profiler will profile record any internal or external call. So if you are, since our web service code is just going through a SAL API, then you will see those API calls show up in the profile code. And so you'll see the timing information on all of that, the calls into the APLs that are consuming those web services. So yes, it will work for that.
Okay, you may have answered this, but TD 7.2 CDK supports to handle web services operations. Kind of similar.
I can't, I know I've seen that request come in just recently, and I don't recall if that is making it into 7.2 or not, but I have seen that come in through support just in the past few weeks.
Yep. Next question is, can we now cut and paste between two report designer instances like we do in Report Builder?
That was not a new feature we've added in this release, no.
Okay, are there any other questions? Is there CDK to generate TD Mobile?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is there CDK to generate TD Mobile?
There is, yes. We don't have a sample that is showing that off, but if you contact support, we have some samples internally that we could share with you to show you how to do that.
Okay. Can we add page numbers and watermarks?
Yes. So the you should be able to access formulas in the watermarks, which you would be able to use like a page number formula for that. Yes.
Can we change the input mask for the date picker control? And then they have the date, month, year, hour, month, minute, second. Can we change the input mask for the date picker?
On the in that sample, you'll notice that we linked to the API documentation. And so you can visit that page to see the full capabilities. I believe that exists. The control supports many different locales, and so I'd be surprised if you couldn't change the date format.
Okay. I think that's all of our questions. Are there any final? Oh, no, a couple more come in. So do we have any improvements about APD files extensions that can be used to customize or personalize the default product?
We currently don't have any plans to implement something like that. No. You know, if you have requests like that, then I would encourage you to contact support and request a feature enhancement.
Okay. Okay, well, at this time, I think we'll wrap up today's session, but I do encourage everyone to continue sending any further questions, and I'll leave the meeting open for another 5 minutes or so. Please be sure to take a minute to complete the post-event survey that's going to pop up as you exit the meeting, as we truly value your feedback. And just one final reminder that today's session was recorded, so within a short period of time, you'll be able to find the recording and the PowerPoint slides on my support page at support.opentext.com/go/webinars, and then we'll also send out an email with all of these materials. So thanks again to Martin and Gary for delivering the presentation today, and thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day and talk soon.